Well, more signs of turmoil for Donald Trump as his campaign undergoes a major shakeup at the top level. The GOP nominee has now hired Stephen Bannon of Breitbart News as the campaign's chief executive officer. He's also promoted senior advisor Kellyanne Conway to campaign manager.
Campaign chairman Paul Manafort, who's currently embroiled in a scandal about alleged corruption in the Ukraine, is expected to keep his title, though it's unclear how his duties will change. Trump's team has characterized the move as a, quote, expansion of their team at a busy time in the campaign home stretch. This is, of course, the second change-up for Trump in as many months.
So CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris is here, making a rare appearance in New York. We're usually talking to you from Washington, D.C. But to talk about all things Trump right now, we're going to start with this shakeup. And this is coming like 2 months after he let Corey Lewandowski go, right? And so here we are with a shakeup, maybe an expansion, maybe an indication that the campaign is in trouble, the way polls are indicating?
Well, you remember what happened when Corey Lewandowski left. He didn't leave immediately. There was an expansion. They brought on Paul Manafort, and then next thing you know, Corey leaves after several weeks. Might be what's happening here as well. Manafort has been sort of not in the inner loop of Trump advising the last few weeks. There's been a bit of a rift. He's bringing in people deeply conservative, quite provocative people, which sort of actually fits a little bit with what Trump. It actually helped where it got Trump to this point, right? During the primaries, he was provocative with a sharp edge, and he wants to get back to that. But at the same time, he needs somebody to focus his message, right? It's really been about Donald Trump and less about Hillary Clinton, and he needs to figure out a way to turn this around. I think you started seeing it last night in his speech in Wisconsin, which I'm sure we'll be talking about. But also, can he continue to do this moving forward? Can he keep the focus on her?
So that's interesting, Steve. Bringing on Manafort was an effort because a lot of Republicans, establishment Republicans, were saying he needs to pivot, he needs to become more the typical candidate that we've seen in the past. Trump has been saying over the last couple of days, especially in interviews that he's done with the press, that he doesn't really want to do that. He likes being who he is, and quite frankly, that's something refreshing to hear from a politician. Hillary Clinton is criticized because she is fake, a lot of people think. He's a real guy. This is an attempt to show more of that.
Well, Manafort was also brought on at a time when Trump needed to pivot. He needed to build a fundraising operation. He needed to build a general election organization. He didn't have that. He had Corey Lewandowski and a bunch of other folks, and not very many of them, that just let him do what he wanted to do. And then when he became the presumptive nominee, he had to figure out a way, how are we going to raise money? How are we going to run a general election campaign? Manafort is brought in. He's sort of righted the ship on that front. But in terms of messaging, he's incompatible with what Trump wants to do. Bannon and Conway, a lot more compatible with what Trump wants to do in terms of the messaging. The question is, one, will the messaging actually work? Can he make this populist message really sort of saying the country doesn't work, it doesn't work for anybody, but also do it in a way where he's blaming Hillary Clinton for it, and will voters buy that? Or will he continue to get in front of his own message and make gaffes left and right, pick fights with people that he shouldn't be picking fights with, and then it becomes all about Trump? We'll see what happens over the next 83 days.
So let's talk a little bit about his speech last night. He was speaking about attempting, it seems, to make a connection with the African-American community, speaking about how the Democratic Party has failed the African-American community, except he did it in a suburb of Milwaukee that was pretty much all white. And as we already know, we've been covering for the past few days, Milwaukee is dealing with its own issues with policing in the African-American community, chose to avoid that actual location. I wonder, what was the purpose of this speech? What do you think he was really trying to do? Was he trying to connect to the African-American community, or was he trying to at least float the idea that the community should disconnect from the Democratic Party?
I think on one hand, he probably was trying to connect with the African-American community. He's not doing very well.
Law and order?
Republican presidential candidates tend to do very poorly with African-American voters, but he's doing worse than where Mitt Romney was in 2012. So part of that is to maybe shore some of that up. But I think more importantly what this is he's, again, trying to make this argument, to pivot to this argument that the country doesn't work for you, whether you're African American, whether you're white working class, whether you're a suburban woman. And I think you're going to hear him over the course of the next few weeks make these arguments and then say it's because of Hillary Clinton and insiders in Washington. And that's what he did yesterday. He said Hillary Clinton's a bigot. The reason why things are not working for you African American voters is because of people like Hillary Clinton. So why are you voting for her? So I think as we go forward, and this is where I think Kellyanne Conway is going to be important for him. Trump has not had a woman in his campaign campaign senior management at all since he's been a candidate. And so she comes in, she's somebody who is a Republican pollster, but is an expert on women voters. And he's having trouble with working, with college-educated white women. That's where Hillary Clinton is getting a lot of support. So she can try to hone his message to speak to those voters and peel off some of those voters. That's going to be a big win for him.
All right, Steve Chaggaris, thank you.
Thanks.